Okay, let's jump right in. Anyone dealing with enterprise data today knows, well, it's messy, really
Well,
messy.
absolutely. You're grappling with, ancient legacy systems, data scattered across multiple clouds,
Appliance headaches everywhere.
and just the sheer amount of data. It's exploded.
Exactly. And the core problem, it isn't just how do we move this data from A to B, it's bigger.
Much bigger. It's about trusting that data. Is it even right?
Yeah, and governing it. Who can see it? Where did it come from?
Uh-huh. And then how do you scale all of that? The infrastructure, the governance, the trust itself.
Right. It's not just plumbing. It's like building a reliable city water system, not just a garden hose.
That's a great way to put it. A secure, scalable supply chain for data.
And that whole messy, complex picture is why we wanted to dive deep into this analysis we got. It asks a pretty pointed question.
Which is,
Given all that complexity, when does investing in a big, comprehensive platform specifically, the source looks at Talend become, well, the necessary strategic move?
okay, so we're looking at those specific pain points that push you beyond the simpler tools.
Yeah. We'll unpack what this source sees as the tipping point where a platform approach is basically required and how Talend fits in, according to them.
Got it.
So maybe let's start with what works for simpler stuff. The source mentions basic ELT tools, extract, load, transform, think Fivetran, Stitch.
Right, and they're acknowledged as being really good for, straightforward cloud connections, moving data from a cloud app to a cloud warehouse. Quick and easy.
They load it fast, you transform it in the warehouse.
Simple.
Exactly. Great for speed in that kind of uniform cloud-to-cloud world.
But the analysis makes it clear these tools kind of hit their limits with real enterprise complexity. It points to industries like finance, healthcare, manufacturing. Why those specifically?
Well, because in places like that, the data landscape is just inherently tougher.
How so?
It's not just big data, it's fragmented. You've got decades-old mainframe stuff living next to brand new cloud apps.
Right, the mix and the data itself. Often dirty, inconsistent. Plus, you've got heavy regulations, HIPAA, GDPR, SOX, you name it.
So just moving the data fast doesn't cut it if it's wrong or you can't prove you handled it right for compliance.
Precisely. The source really stresses this.
Hmm.
You need more than just moving bytes. You need strong, built-in data quality processes.
To clean and validate it as it moves.
Uh-huh. And robust data governance, security, privacy, compliance baked in, not bolted on later.
And managing the flow.
Yeah, sophisticated orchestration for those complex pipelines with lots of dependencies. Simpler tools usually focus on the movement part, less on these integrated layers.
Which the analysis suggests is where something like Talend comes in.
Ugh.
It's positioned, now being part of Quilloc, not just as a tool, but an enterprise platform.
That's the key distinction the source makes. It's presented as a whole suite. Yes, integration is core, but it includes dedicated stuff for quality, governance, orchestration, even master data management.
MDM too. So getting that single view of customers or products.
Exactly. It's about that breadth of capability.
Okay, so breadth is one thing, but what specifically, according to this analysis, makes it suited for that tough enterprise stuff? What are the core strengths?
The analysis highlights a few things. One is flexibility in transformations. It supports both advanced ETL,
Transforming before loading.
right, useful for cleaning complex data before it hits your main warehouse, and ELT, transforming after loading, leveraging the power of the target system.
Having both options is pretty key with diverse systems.
Absolutely. But the thing the source really hammers home is the built-in data quality.
Okay.
Things like data profiling, understanding what your data actually looks like, validation against business rules, monitoring quality over time. It's presented as fundamental, not optional.
So stopping garbage in, garbage out right at the source.
That's the idea. You're not just pumping dirty water faster, you're filtering it.
Got it.
And tied to that is governance. The source mentions integrated metadata management like a central catalog and really strong lineage tracking.
Lineage. Like where did this data point come from, step by step?
Exactly, like a data passport. Crucial for audits, for compliance. Imagine trying to prove GDPR compliance without that.
Yeah, that sounds like a lifesaver for compliance folks.
Huge pain point addressed. And the source also points to its strength in hybrid and multi-cloud, connecting everything from mainframes.
Still running core banking.
You bet. Mainframes, databases, ERPs, SaaS apps, cloud data lakes on AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, the whole mix.
Because big companies rarely have just one green environment.
Never. And handling that mix is tough. The source mentions flexibility here, too. You can use Talend Studio for on-premise design or Talend Cloud for more agile cloud-native stuff.
So it meets the data where it is.
Pretty much.
Okay, so if we boil it down, what's the wheelhouse for Talend according to this analysis? Where does it really shine?
The source defines it as complex transformations, situations where that embedded governance and lineage are absolutely non-negotiable, and environments with really diverse source systems that simpler tools struggle with.
When the problem is messy and needs a strong central approach.
That's it. Think fraud detection in banking, integrating tons of systems, complex rules, high reliability needed,
Right.
or clinical data pipelines in healthcare. Accuracy and lineage are critical there.
Patient safety, compliance.
Yeah, or complex supply chains in manufacturing, integrating ERP, IoT, logistics data. Needs trust, needs visibility. These aren't simple transfers.
Okay, that paints a clear picture. So let's bring it back to the listener. If you're sitting there listening, what does this mean for you, depending on your role?
Good question. The analysis tries to translate this. If you're, say, a business leader deciding on platform,
Making those big investment calls.
right, the source positions Talend as something to seriously consider when you've clearly outgrown the simpler tools. If you're constantly fighting legacy integration, worrying about meeting multiple compliance rules across silos, or if your data landscape is just a tangled mess slowing everything down,
Then maybe it's time for a bigger platform approach.
that's the suggestion, to bring order, reliability, scalability. But, and this is important, the source is clear, it's not plug and play.
Ah, the catch.
Well, it requires real technical skill, careful planning, dedicated effort. The source notes many enterprises use partners or consultants to get it right and get it done faster.
So powerful, but needs skilled hands and a strategy.
Exactly. Now, if you're a data professional engineer, architect,
On the ground building this stuff.
Yeah. the source frames Talend expertise as a real career booster. Skills like strong Java and SQL, performance tuning, cloud fluency, and a deep grasp of data quality and architecture are highly valued.
Why more valuable than knowing a simpler tool?
Because you're not just moving data, you're designing and managing these complex, governed, quality-controlled pipelines across tricky hybrid environments. You become more strategic.
Enabling trusted data.
Precisely. The source says, trust is currency in this market.
Yeah,
If you can deliver that trust using a platform built for complexity, you're incredibly valuable.
that makes a lot of sense. Bad data can kill a business.
It really can.
Okay, so wrapping up the source's view, Talend isn't for every simple task.
No, simpler tools might be fine there.
But for that enterprise complexity, legacy, hybrid, governance, quality needs, this analysis positions it as offering the depth needed to bring structure, trust, and scale.
That's the core argument. It's for when complexity and trust are paramount.
And if people want to dig deeper, you mentioned the source pointed somewhere.
Yeah, the analysis referenced a blog post specifically called Talend Strategy. Is it the right platform for complex enterprise data integration? For more on this strategic view.
And for finding talent or implementation help.
It also mentioned curate partners in that context, finding folks with the right skills or getting strategic help for implementations.
Got it. So the big takeaway seems to be, simple tools are great until they aren't. When enterprise reality bites with its complexity, you need that platform depth for integration, quality, and governance. That's the space this analysis puts Talend in.
Well summarized. Which leads to a final thought for everyone listening.
Let's hear it.
If trusted data really is currency, like the source suggests, how much is your organization losing right now because of data chaos? Untrusted, ungoverned data. And what level of investment is actually needed not just to move data, but to build that fundamental trust across your entire landscape?
Something important to think about.